Good day to you from Anagalactic on this Sunday, the 26th of July 2026. Over here, you'll see an outline that we'll be going through briefly in order to discuss the cutting edge of science at the very top, consciousness. What is consciousness? What is it? I've given 3 suggestions here. So I'm just going to expand this for just a moment and then use the pointer. What is consciousness? Is it a point? Is it a neuronal system in the brain? Or, as I will be suggesting, is it a surface? We're going to end up finding out that consciousness is a surface. But the way I would like to begin is with the traditional approach. And what do I mean by that? The Western dominant mode. The Western linear logic, mechanistic, sequential, materialistic, physical approach to consciousness. Now, you'll see our pointer here. I'm going to point down to the end of our list and I'm going to highlight this term, synthetic ideal. This will have something to do with consciousness as a surface. And in order to get to that endpoint, which will be the result that I've achieved, the solution to the problem which I have not stated yet, we're going to go through this phase of the quantum. And this is critical. This is the core of my contribution to this absolutely top of the list problem for humans. This is a human question. This has nothing to do with technology. It has nothing to do with white supremacy. It has nothing to do with Western industrialism. It has nothing to do with the present day psychotic system of science. This is real science, the way it's always been. And it's based in rational logic. And that's all it's based in, is rational logic. In the scientific method, you can apply rational logic to develop a very good approach to many questions, most of them in physics. But when you're talking about the actual purpose of science, the actual meaning behind anything that humans do, you are asking a human question. We need answers for humans, not for a database, not for an AI system, not to contribute to some glorified theory which needs defense. Not according to someone else's idea of orientation. There's only one correct orientation to the universe. A human orientation. You are a human. You are not a goddamned machine. You're not a machine. Let me emphasize that. You are not a machine. I hope that that is sinking into your skull. Well, if you're not a machine, what are you? Okay, now we have a proper framework of approach. This is a human problem to decide how is it that human beings are not machines. We're not physical. Okay? We're not made of matter. That's not a human being. That is a human organism. And we are that. We're cellular organisms. Well, in Western science, that is actually the bottom line. And that leaves out everything important. The fact that human beings are biological organisms has to be addressed in a specific methodology. Otherwise, you end up with white supremacy, which is exactly what Western science is. The survival of the fittest is meant to show that the Europeans are the dominant race on Earth, and that black people and brown people and Oriental people, which is a variation of brown, you'd have to say, all of those races are inferior. And the survival of the fittest, natural selection, dictates that the European race is destined to wipe out all the other races. That is the whole meaning of Europe, of the white culture, of Christianity, which has been co-opted for white supremacy. And I don't even need to mention the name of Israel, do I? So to put this all in perspective, the subject at hand, with rational logic, to solve the problems of science, at the very top of the list, the only problem that needs to be solved now, is the nature of consciousness in terms of the human being, not the human organism, not the brain, not the neurons, nothing physical. We're talking about consciousness as something that's outside of the realm of physics, a non-physical phenomenon. And we're not talking about animal consciousness or plant consciousness or, in fact, inorganic consciousness, all three of which are allied with panpsychism, to which Bernardo Kastrup has been acutely sensitive. Because Bernardo Kastrup is the man who invented unbelievably effective reformulation of the physical basis of reality. Reality is another interesting word which we're getting to. Because Western science treats reality atomistically, which of course has encountered a tremendous problem because at the quantum level, things are no longer atomic. It breaks into a different system which I discovered to solve the whole quantum system. That's why we have this section, quantum, in order to negotiate our discussion of consciousness in order to get the solution. Now, what I have not discussed yet is the Bohmian implicate. And all of that I'm going to discuss right now in a very tight sequence, which you probably will not be able to fully understand or even follow, because this is going to be in complete reverse of what I've been doing for the past 23 minutes, which is to lay out an extremely broad field. And now that we have the field, and we have some kind of orientation, and we've begun to kickstart the system, we know where we're going because I have the solution. And now my job is to tell you the solution so that you will be able to perform the same sequence to prove to yourself what is the solution to the question. What is the answer to the problem that solves it? So now we have to formulate the question, which we've begun to do. This, by the way, is the Polya method. Very, very powerful method, basically out of Stanford. When we ask what is consciousness, that question is not specific enough. When we're asking what is consciousness, we have to have a choice. A choice between what and what. Is consciousness a point? You've heard the term, I'm sure, point consciousness. That's a very popular term. And it has a geometric significance. But when you're talking about the brain and how it generates consciousness, which is a physical interpretation of consciousness, you're talking about neurons. You're talking about the actual cellular construction of the brain. We are cellular organisms, and everything that we are physically is governed by cellular activity. And in the brain, those are called neurons. Now, you know that there's a lot more information I could be adding to that. That's rather simplistic, but it's good enough because we now have a choice between consciousness as a geometric point, as a neuronal system, or the correct answer, a surface. It's a surface. And that's more or less a combination of a geometric statement, and I will be covering that specifically because that is the answer. What is consciousness? The answer is, it's a surface. Now, how can you prove that? The way you can prove that consciousness is a surface is by examining quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics, as I've taught you, is a loaded term because two words are being used incorrectly. What passes for quantum mechanics is not mechanical, and it is not quantum in the sense of that being adjectival. The quantum is a noun. It refers to a unit. And now you must ask, a unit of what? There are two quanta. I discovered this, so this is breakthrough discovery science now. You're hearing what is beyond the envelope. I have pushed the envelope to a new threshold so that quantum mechanics can now be defined. It's not mechanics. So what is it? You're talking about a quantum, which is an object, an abstract object. It may be atomic, that is atomistic, in other words, a particle, or it could be a unit of something else, and it's that something else that's driven everybody stark raving mad. Because however you define that something else, you're either going to violate light speed, really just throw relativity out the fucking window, space-time would be no more if that something else is non-spatial, which it is. So we have two quantums. We have two quantums that need to be defined. And this is the correct way to approach quantum mechanics. So I know this seems like it's far removed from consciousness. It is not at all far removed from consciousness. To get the answer to what is the quantum will give us the right orientation for solving the problem that we've assigned ourselves. What is consciousness? Is it atomistic? Is it mechanistic? Is it physical? Or is it something else? It's something else. Well, what is that? So that is what we are asking when we ask, what is consciousness? Is it one or is it the other? It's the other. All right. Now we can start the sequence. There are two quantums. There are two units. One of them has been discovered and has gone overlooked. The other one has not been discovered, but everything that forms the paradoxicality of the quantum phenomenological level is due to not being able to perceive the other quantum. So we have two quantums now that we need to define, and everything I say now is outside the realm of accepted science. It's brand new. Do not believe what I say. But I am going to ask you to do what every scientist has to do when considering a new theoretical approach that violates the other theoretical approaches. Because one of those theoretical approaches is going to be dominant, and it does not want to be dethroned. That is the fate of every true scientist. If you want to push the envelope, which you do, if you want to get the solutions, which you do, it's all or nothing in science. You can't be wishy-washy. There can't just be a theoretical limit that can't be penetrated, because what is happening when you have a theory or something like the many worlds interpretation, you're stuck. It means you don't have an answer. The universe splits in half, or the universe just fractalizes. That's the many worlds interpretation, because the cat is both dead and alive. That's the paradox. As Schrödinger put it, it was actually a parody. But there is a point to that. Cat is a dead and alive at the same time, because that is currently the theoretical limit of what is superposition. What is superpositional state logic? Well, it dictates, according to a man named Everett, who developed this theoretic model, that in order to decide the matter of superposition, where the cat is both alive and dead at the same tempuscular moment, in other words, an indivisible moment of time, at that moment, at that point in time, the cat is alive and the cat is dead. That has been proved according to the model. And of course, that's absurd. So how do you solve that absurdity? Nothing could be simpler. The universe splits into two universes, and your light cone course is into one of those universes, and the other universe splits off and disappears. And of course, that's anti-physical, anti-rational. It's absurd. So that's not the right answer. But that is currently the Western view of what happens at the foundational level of reality, is that the universe splits. Bernardo Kastrup, who has 2 PhDs after his name and is one of the most prolific men on the science circuit today, a genius, a polymath, a very admirable man. I admire him greatly, enough to adopt his framework, which is ultimately correct, which is that Western science has made a fundamental mistake in how the universe exists. According to Western science, the universe exists as a physical object that is split into smaller and smaller physical objects. Bernardo Kastrup says that that's horseshit, that the universe is consciousness. And you'll notice that that's at the top of our list. So Bernardo Kastrup has developed a model for physics that ruins Western science. It ends Western science. It replaces Western science with a new model of reality, which is what humans want. We want to know what is real. Why do we want to know that? Because unless you know what is real, you cannot orient your life and you cannot get any solutions, which means you're going to die frustrated. Or worse, these may be questions that involve our very fate and destiny, whether there's life after death or not, or what happens to Hitler after he's dead but he has not paid for his sins. These are human questions. What about all the screaming children? What about all the dead? Why is that happening? That's a human question. Can you get a scientific answer? In science, you have to prove everything that you know. You can't ask someone to believe you. And that's not even true in religion. You can never believe. Belief is the end of your existence as a rational, logical entity, which you are. That can be proved. It has been proved. You have rational logic in order to answer the deepest questions of life so that your answers are provable. You're not believing in shit. You know what the answer is. Because your life ultimately is going to depend on it. That's the human situation. No theory. No belief. Now, faith is a very interesting concept which we can't cover right now. But belief and faith are two different things. If you believe in the Bible or Jesus or the prophet or the Quran or Buddha or nothingness, you can believe all you want. I should make a brief declarative statement about what I mean by the difference between belief and faith. This is a very sensitive and overworked, really juvenile issue in Western, I'll just say, culture. If you believe in leprechauns or unicorns, well, that's your belief system. You're perfectly entitled to it. Not in science, you're not. You're not being rational. You're not using your rational logical system correctly. Rational logic, it's one of our subsystems. One of only two subsystems. The other one is emotional. And that's where faith comes in. Because your emotional subsystem includes love. Love you can't define. Love is axiomatic. Love simply exists. Love is irrational. It cannot be analyzed. Love is what it is, whatever it is. Well, that's where faith comes in. Here we're stuck with semantics. You either believe in love or you don't believe in love. And Western science has no room for that because it's physical. It has nothing to do with consciousness. It's inhuman. It's anti-human now. And that's Western science. Anti-human, white supremacist, brutal, genocidal logic. And that's in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which if you haven't read it, read the first 2 paragraphs. Yes, it's a forgery. So what? So what? It still states the truth. Yeah, it sounds like that's on the side of Hitler. Well, Hitler actually had a very, very good point to make. That there is an evil force active among the European whites in a very small cadre. Well, the cat's out of the bag on who they are. Hitler was right. Does it have a bad effect? Yes, if you artificially extend the cadre to a slightly larger group, all of whom claim to have the same genetic background and or religion. That's called anti-Semitism. In the modern sense, a stupid word, in fact, as is JEW, which does not refer to anything real and has not for 2,000 years. So you're dealing in a fantasy world, whether it's with Hitler, or with Stalin, or with Netanyahu. As for Trump, he shits in his pants every day and nobody can stand near him. He's 80 years old and he's completely out of his mind. So stop saying his fucking name. You're brainwashed. Your consciousness has been demonized. You being somebody that you were not intended to be. That's why we're talking about consciousness. What is it? In the next video, which will be later today, we are going to answer the question, what is consciousness, such that we know the quantum answer that will guide us to the correct perception of what is consciousness, so we'll understand the new system, the new framework for physics that describes the entire universe, including humans, synthetic idealism. And that's my contribution to science. Just giving it a name. It's based in spherical geometry, which I discovered. So I discovered the absolute basis that precedes Euclid and replaces Euclid with the correct geometry that explains quantum mechanics and ends up explaining everything in astrophysics as well, including up to the origin of the universe. I can now explain fully where everything in the universe comes from solar systems to galaxy clusters, to the cosmic web, to the cosmic microwave background radiation, to the supermassive black hole, to quasars, to quasar groups, and everything else in the universe, all the way down to the atomic level, the subatomic level, the quantum level, and what is just underneath the quantum level. I have the geometry for it, the force balance system that rewrites the Einstein field equation, gives us a new interpretation of the Einstein energy equation, and answers every single question in physics, all the way to consciousness and reality, so that you know what reality is, so you can make rational decisions in your life to fix it. Sounds very, very much like religion, doesn't it? You're about to wake up from the Matrix. Don't miss the next video presentation. This is Anagalactic, bringing you the secrets of the universe and the solutions. No more theory. You can now orient your life. Keep looking up. We'll be right back. Thank you.